Video about. So listen up. We're doing credit, everything about it, and how to build yours. Next up on Houston's Hustle Hobbies. To start off, there are two types of credit that I really see. High interest credit. These are things like your credit cards, anything where your debt or APR or annual percentage rate is above 10%. You typically find this rate that's 10 or 20% or higher on most of your credit cards. Places like Rent-A-Center, where you buy things like these, or well, you'll see something like this. 12 months financing, there's an APR or extra debt attached to that financing. Now, high interest credit is really easy to get. It's as easy as going on the site and figuring out a credit card, a secured credit card. Now, a secured credit card is if you don't have good credit. Essentially, all they do is whatever cash you give them, you have that much in credit, and that's meant to build your credit. You get this when your credit is in the 400 to 500 range. You'll buy small things on this credit card, like say gas if you have a car, or food, and pay it back directly at the end of the month, and then slowly you'll build your credit up. Then once you're done with that, you get the unsecured credit card. That's the typical credit card that you'll find in any store like this Best Buy here. And don't worry, they'll suggest it to you once you buy something right at the cash register. But the difference is you'll have a lot more money available, or disposable credit available. That means you can go from spending money on things like this to things like this. Now, you'll treat this unsecured credit card just the way you treated the secured credit card. You'll buy what you need and not what you want, so that you show that you're financially responsible. Now, this takes time. It can take up to 7 years to get your credit repaired if you're in the fives. And once we do all that purchasing and repaying, we take a look at our credit report to find any charge-offs or extra debts or any frauds that are on our account. And I'll show you guys how to do that at the computer in a second. So here we are on the computer, and myself, I use these two apps, Credit Karma and Experian. Now, what these sites do is they passively monitor your credit. About every 2 to 3 days, they give you an update about where you stand credit-wise. So I'm gonna jump into Credit Karma, and this site is filled with advertisements on how to get different credit cards and loans, so you can just ignore that. But the two things that you're looking at is the credit dashboard. So when we look at this, you get a quick snapshot of where your credit is, and here are the factors that affect your credit. So like I said, things like paying off your credit on time. As you can see, it's high impact. Good credit card usage, how much of your credit that you're utilizing on a monthly basis. That number needs to stay somewhere underneath 30%. Derogatory remarks, these are things like collection accounts, if you had a bankruptcy, anything like that will very negatively impact your credit. And you would click this button here to get a full detailed breakdown of your credit. Now, I can't click this report because all my vital information is there, and fraud is bad. We don't like fraud. So go here to get all the detailed breakdowns of what your credit is. And what you need to focus on first is the collections. Make sure you deal with your collections. And you do this by calling the collection numbers and striking some sort of payoff deal with them, or you can pay them off altogether, or you can dispute the collection and get them removed that way. But it's very important to get these paid off. Because I think collections is like 33% of your credit score. Once you get past the whole kerfuffle of the Credit Karmas and the Experians and the TransUnions and the extra Equifaxes of pulling your credit, only then can you graduate to low interest debt. Now, low interest debt are things like car loans, home loans, debt consolidation loans in some cases, and finally, technically, student loan debt too. These debts are usually issued to you by a bank, which is why it's super important for you to get those collections off your account that we were talking about that are weighing you down. So now for the big secret. America runs on low interest debt. Low interest debt can be used or leveraged to make you more money. So here's an example. You see that closed store right there? If you wanted that store, you would open a business. You would go ahead and get a business loan from your bank, which gives you very favorable terms, but it takes a while to get that money. You would apply for a business loan for, say, $300,000 or $400,000, and once you go through the weeds, you'd have your place. And they'll give you really favorable terms. Instead of 24% APR, you'll have 1% APR or 2% APR to pay back that business, that loan. And remember, APR is the amount of money that you pay back the bank for letting them give you that money. So obviously, you see how that can work in your favor. If your business idea is a good one, you'll be able to pay that back in no time. And this is what's known as leveraging debt. And if you do it right, you'll make billions and have a relatively peaceful life. But if you do it wrong, you'll have to file for bankruptcy, which is a whole other video. Your options will close up and you'll be very, very miserable. So that's why it's imperative to know what you're doing with debt and credit. So that's my high-level overview on credit. How to get some and the do's and don'ts once you have it. So that's me. I've been Pat Houston from Houston's Hustle Hobbies, where we always live high, live mighty, live righteously. Take it easy.